favorite quotes from, there's a very famous opera singer named Caruso. He was the biggest known opera singer before Pavarotti. But he said that anyone who says they don't have stage fright is either lying or they're an idiot.
Oh yeah. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Yeah.
Because it's awkward being up in front of everybody and staring at you like sardines, and you're like, come on, give me something.
It's
like
kind of it's kind of funny that you say that, because my last podcast guest, Luke Snyder, was on the show. He said the same thing about bull riding. He said, I don't care how many times you get on a bull, you're scared every time.
Of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, you taking all of that in, I just can't imagine. I mean, I think I commend those guys, but they're a little crazier than me, actually.
Yeah, they're crazy. That's for dang sure. You speak a few different languages. What was the hardest language you ever had to learn?
Oh, to be honest, it was Serbian, because I had an ex-wife. She was from Serbia, and it was a place that also I'd never heard of. That's the ex-Yugoslavia, and I was around her and her family for a good 4 years, and I couldn't understand anything but like, I love you, hi, good night, I'm hungry. That's about it. Yeah, it was like nothing. And the weird thing is, like, I didn't think I was ever going to learn it, but then I got a job and I sang in Belgrade, which is the capital of Serbia, and I was there for a month. Everyone spoke English, but being in the society, after about 2-3 weeks, I was like, wait a minute, I understand everybody, and I was able to start conversing and speaking Serbian. A lot of it's left me. It's been about, golly, when was that? About 12, 13 years, but it was such a mind-blowing experience, because the odd thing about learning languages, because I never spoke anything until I was, I started learning German when I was about almost 25. That's about when I started learning languages, because I moved over there and I couldn't speak. I mean, I could just speak a couple of words, those really, really basic things. But when you put yourself in a weird corner like that, and like, you don't know anything, you just have to just pick up, and your brain just feels like it's going to explode, because that every single day you're going, what does that word mean? I think I know that word. Okay, let's put that with what I know. And then, because I'm not a very structured person. I kind of like, let's bring it all in, and then I'll put it together and corral it in my mind. But
I can't figure it out, man.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
I've tried studying other languages, and took a little French, a little Spanish, and stuff like. I learned the very, very basics, but I don't stick with it long enough, honestly. But it just. I don't know. It just seems difficult to me.
Oh, it totally is. And that's why the other good thing about learning other languages, you realize that once you get into it, you start to realize that these are great things, and it's wonderful for your brain. But like for any American to say that, I only speak English, and like, no, you'd speak other languages if you had to. And Europeans, they have to. You have to. You have 3-4 languages at you every single day, so you get used to it. You really do. But the big thing about the languages, for me, I've loved, and studies have shown that you actually become slightly a different person in other languages. And I noticed that that's what I do. Like when I'm speaking Italian, I'm calmer, and I'm just more laid back, and I'm just like, Italian,
that makes sense.
Just like, But then French, you're just a little bit more esoteric and different and weird. In German, you are really structured, and it's funny because if you look at the studies of people in their languages, and a lot of people don't like to talk about this, but that's one of the reasons that most Asian countries are so much better than others in math, and it's because it's built into their language systems.
Really,
it's the ways that their brains are structured because of the language. It's very, very mathematical.
Right.
And Germans are, there's another reason why they're so orderly. It's because their language is very orderly, and they have a lot different language patterns than us. Yeah. And it's built within your language structure. Cause like when I'm speaking German, I do feel more precise, and I feel very confident about what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's hard to,
I can see that.
It's hard to imagine, but that's really what it is, because you just get used to these patterns and used to thinking in a certain ways. And that kind of, there's this zeitgeist that moves everybody in different languages, and it's pretty weird. It's trippy when you get into what languages can do, cause it's one of the neatest guys to read is Noam Chomsky from back. He was a linguist first before he became a big political figure, but one of the things that he figured out was that we innately have language patterns. We're born to speak, and anyone who's a father would know this, because it's so weird that your kids will start speaking in sentences, and you're like, how the hell did he do that? I don't
Right.
understand that. I didn't teach them where to put this and where to do that. They just hear it, and we have this innate ability to speak, and that's something that we have as humans. It's really it's trippy, and once you get into other languages, you start to notice different things about yourself and how you react to things, and especially because originally when I started out, I wanted to write a book called How to Offend Everyone in Almost Every Language.
Nice.
Because I that's the first thing anybody wants to learn is the dirty words, all that stuff. So
yeah, you got to have those.
Yeah, and
I'll tell my mom that.
Yeah, exactly. But the funny thing about that is you start noticing when you speak other languages and say something that's really horrible, you have no connection, no feeling to it whatsoever.
Sure.
And but then you see the redness on their face, and they're like, "Oh shit,
my bad."
Say? Oh no!" And you're like, "Oh, did I say something really terrible?" Like, yes, you did.
Yep. Yeah, shouldn't have said that, man.
And they would do it back to me in English, and I'd have the same feeling. And I was like, "Oh God, that's so weird how much words affect us."
Yeah.
You know, and being that far away from a language, you can see truly how we're affected by language. So it's made me a little bit more insightful and more mindful of which words that I'm choosing to say to people, and hopefully to my children, as I'm a father to two, and constantly thinking about, okay, if I say this, how is he going to do? It's trying not to get into a chess game, but really carefully choosing my words and trying not to curse around my kids. That's hard to bite your tongue,
I have the same problem. I have the same problem. My wife is all the time on me about it too. It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
And I really do try to watch it, but when it's part of your everyday language, sometimes it just slips out, man. So.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want to feel good about it, but a lot of people, a lot of studies have showed that more intelligent people use more curse words. So,
well, there you go.
So there you go. Yeah,
I'm an intelligent guy. Tell that to my wife and my mom.
Okay.
They don't believe that. I don't think. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, your kids, man, your two boys, they're quite the guys, man.
Oh, they're funny.
They're sweethearts when they come in here and get their haircut.
Well, when they come in here, that's always good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, they are really good around other people. I mean, they're good around us too. But
sure.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
But they're both at that age. They're getting ready to, be volcanoes of personalities. So,
how old are they?
Yeah. Ari just turned 6, and Thea's turning 4 next week. So,
there you go.
Yeah, 6 and 4.
Yeah, I got a 1.5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old at home, man.
Oh wow, man,
Yeah,
that's great.
I also have a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old, so I got 4 kids.
Yeah.
They keep me busy.
Yeah. Oh God. Good Lord. That's the weirdest thing about being a parent is realizing that, especially when they're young. I mean, it's a little bit less so now, but when they're really young, you realize how many times a day that you actually save their life. You quite literally are saving their lives a bunch of times every single day.
Every day. Get off that couch. Get off that chair. Don't do this.
I know.
Dude,
don't stick that in there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, man. My 1.5-year-old's the world's worst about it.
Yeah.
Climbing on stuff she shouldn't be climbing on.
Oh,
and,
gosh.
just scares me to death. But they don't have any fear.
I know. Yeah. That's funny because my parents, they told me stories because I was like overly hyper. They would have easily given me Ritalin or something because I was the kind of kid that jumped off of trees as high as I possibly could just to get that feeling and sensation, and almost broke my legs. A couple of times I'd jump off roofs and run through screen doors just because I was so hyper. And just like and I can see that my kids have a little bit more my wife in them, thank God. But then I see that little glint of craziness in my my older boy. He's never, maybe twice in 6 years he slept through the night, but maybe twice. It just he just doesn't want to ever sleep. He just got too much going on.
My 2.5-year-old, she don't even take naps anymore.
Oh man.
It's just, I mean, she stays up all day.
Man.
It's crazy. I don't know. You have to force her to go to sleep at night.
Yeah.
She's the same way.
Wow.
She's just wired for sound all the time. But
I think the big thing of it, and that we never had to deal with as kids, is that we're living in such a digital age, and it's messing with a lot of kids' brain patterns.
Oh yeah.
And the more that us and all the listeners can get their kids, just get them out in the woods away from electronics. You're going to save your kids' lives. It's really, and save their brains, because you can see a noticeable difference if you make them get away from television and everything just for a day. And you're like, wow, they're calmer and better. And you're like,
right.
oh,
100%, man.
You know?
My 14-year-old just got a cell phone here about, well, he got it for his birthday back in September, so 3 or 4 months ago. And, you know, he begged for one for years, and I just refused to give him one for that very reason. I'm like, no, you know, it ain't happening. And and I'm not against video games or anything like that, but I don't have any in my house. You know, I don't have the PlayStations or Xbox or whatever they call them nowadays, but just for that very reason, I don't want to be addicted to the screen. Yeah,
I know. And a lot of people think like, oh, that's a harsh word, addiction. I'm like, no, it's clinically proven that it's doing the exact same dopamine extract as taking drugs, and you can quite literally easily get addicted to it.
100%. I do not have. I mean, I noticed it with
myself. I mean, like when I come home, like last week, you know, I purposely put my phone away for 2 days. And it was weird because I kept checking my pocket, and I was like, damn it. I don't care. I don't need to know anything. I just need to stop it. So, you know, it happens to everybody. I'm a big tech person, but it's a weird thing that when you're going through such of a bow tie of evolution, I think in the human condition right now, what's going on, we're dealing with problems that no one's ever dealt with in all of humanity. Yeah. And a lot of people aren't realizing that that's seriously what's going on. But once the internet popped up, you know, it just, everything changed.
Everything. And it's just going to keep changing. You know?
I know.
They got some crazy stuff they're coming out with, foldable smartphones and all kinds of stuff. I mean,
I don't know. In one of the interesting things, and what I because I'm kind of a tech person, and for the last 10 years, I just get all the weird kind of gadgets and things, and just to try them out and see if they're going to work, because I travel so much, and I don't want to be really minimal if I can. And so I've had a lot of different kinds of little pocket projectors and stuff, but now there's some of the coolest things you can control them with your smartphone. And anytime, because I travel, like, to give you an idea of like how much I travel, this year I was only here in the States, I think 11 weeks.
Wow.
And I was in 9 different countries, and for the most part I'm in a place anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks, and that's about it. And then I'd switch to the next country and go to the next country, and it's a weird nomadic life. And I'm not complaining, but it's weird because every single time I go and I stay in a different place, I'm like I said, I find the cheapest place that I can. I don't care about like staying in the one place that I you know, if I go to Vienna, I stay in, you know, a new Airbnb every single time. Nice. And same thing with Paris. But it's cool because you get to know every little nook and cranny of these cities, you know. And I know these cities like a local because I have actually spent so much time in them, and I get to spend, you know, regular time in a city like Paris or London, and instead of being a tourist and having to see everything in like 2 days, you know, doing the one trip. That's the weirdest thing about my life. It's just it's the extremes, you know, being, because even at our house here in Rogersville, we have barely any. I mean, we have internet, but we can't watch anything streaming. Yeah, we barely have any kind of cell phone reception. You know, we'll get messages every couple of hours, just ding, like, cool,
there it is.
Yeah, but then being hyper connected, or even crazier, like singing someplace like Japan. I'll be in Japan and Korea later next year, and being in a place like that where it's just nothing but cell towers everywhere, and you got like 5G everywhere, and just like, and too many bright lights, just
it goes nuts.
It's insanity.
Like being on Times Square or something.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, like Times Square is crazy, but there's this place called Shinjuku in the middle of Tokyo, and you stand there, and that's one you'll see on like different commercials and stuff, where it's like a 6-way, and where there's no traffic, and then there's quite literally 100,000 people every single seconds, and then they all move. But it's like Times Square times 10, and that's the most amazing thing about my job. I mean, trying to keep the sanity, but getting to see the rest of the world and how different everything is. Like, the whole world is like insane, and it's this amazing place. And the more you can travel, the more you'll appreciate where you. That's why one of my favorite quotes from Proust, Marcel Proust, is the beauty of travel is, I mean, it's loosely translated from French, but the beauty of travel is not seeing new things. It's coming back home and seeing through new eyes.
That's awesome.
And that's what any kind of travel is. It doesn't matter if you're going to Springfield and you're going to, any place, like you're from Rogersville, go over to Fordland, see how different. I mean, everyone says, "Oh, everything's the same." It's like, no, it's not. Everything's different.
I grew up in Fordland, graduated in Fordland. It's a different. It's completely different than Rogersville.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's the weird thing in Rogersville. Like, where the heck is the town? It's just like
spread out all over. Creation.
Yeah. I'm hoping. I mean, we've got to. I'm excited about the future because it's the only city that hasn't been really made into kind of like a. I mean, Nixa turned into this
suburb of Springfield.
Yeah, exactly. Suburb. Yeah. What Rogersville, I'm hoping, I mean, we'll see in a few years, but I hope it can become that kind of cool community where, we'll have farmers in the town and we'll be able to have, kind of a neat town again, and have an old, because we got the possibilities, but it's just.
I hope so too, man. I think everybody's finally ready to see this town grow.
Yeah.
It took a long time.
I know.
It's kind of had that good old boy mentality for many, many years.
Exactly.
But I think they're kind of getting out of that.
You can see it. You can see it. Little things popping up here and there. And I'm sure that overpass, a lot of people didn't like the idea of it first, but then you can see how much better it is for traffic and safer.
Well, and they get that other one up down there at 125. That'll be nice too.
Yeah, it will be. But I mean, that's what I like about being in this area is getting to see some of the growth and being from the Ozarks, getting to. A lot of people think it's funny because if you really get into the history of our area, especially the Ozarks, it's trippy to see how our area is so much different than any place else in the United States.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of people, I tell them where I'm from, and they don't quite understand because we're kind of Southern, but then if you go past 44, you're a Northerner, and then and we have our own. I mean, there's supposedly 6 different dialectical languages in the United States alone, and Ozarkian is one of them.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's really interesting because there's a lot of phrases and things that we use in the Ozarks that just people have no clue
what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I used to be years ago, I was probably 18, 19 years old. And I used to work at MCI as a telemarketer, you know, and, we call people trying to sell them long distance. And I swear to God, man, the first thing most of these people would ask me when I got off, where are you from?
Yeah. Where the hell are you from? I know. I was like, yeah, I know it's distinct, but but people don't realize the region goes all the way up. And I didn't know until I looked at the map, but it goes down into like Fayetteville is where right around, and goes like a little tip of Oklahoma. It goes all the way up to very close to Jeff City and almost to St. Louis. That's what the Ozarks are, and the different kinds of people and the influences that we've had. I always tell people, they ask about my region. I say, well, think of all the settlers and the crazy people that decided to move from Europe to the States. And then they said, nah, I don't like it here in the East. So then they came up and got to the Missouri and Mississippi River, and they're like, no, I'm not going to. But then the crazy one said, yeah, hell yeah, let's go across.
There.
so our stock comes from some pretty interesting folk.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I love it though.
Me too. And just seeing the history and the foods and the artisanal way that's starting to come back into style. I'm so happy about that because like you're doing here, it's fantastic because growing up, there's Clifford on the street in Mansfield. He was about the only old school barber that was from back in the 40s still cutting hair in the 80s, and it was just kind of considered passe to just kind of out of style. I'm not gonna go to a barber shop. I don't care about it.
They were dead for years, man.
Yeah. But it's cool because you're part of that new generation of people that are like the beer craft scene and spirit scene and the barbers. It's all coming back, and people are realizing that we've got a giant industry that's just been sleeping for so long because you saw like being from Mansfield, it's far enough away from Springfield. It was about a 45-minute drive into Springfield, and a lot of people just didn't have the means to drive to Springfield all the time. So what ended up happening in these smaller towns, everyone wanted to be like the big town of Springfield, you know, and so they didn't own the small townness, and all of the little places started dying out, and the town pride kind of just went by the wayside, and you can start to see that coming back. You can see all these bakeries and see people, barbershops and stuff, and it's just, I couldn't be happier about it. Yeah,
small businesses are doing good.
Yeah, sure. Thank God. I know.
When I was opening this place up, I had no idea if it would work or not. In a little bitty small town, and so I had a baby due in 2 months the day we opened this place, and everybody thought I was insane.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Put every dime I had into it, literally, and it ended up working out. But it always scares you. You've been there. You've done it. Of
course, putting everything that you have into something, that's the scariest. And a lot of people just think that they're going to get it by like, well, I like to do this, so why isn't it working? It's like, because you're half-assing it,
right? Yeah. You got to put in the work, man. And I tell all my barbers that work for me and anybody, I get a lot of questions, people always asking me, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? And I give away all my secrets. I don't hold nothing back. And
hard work's the number one
it's
secret.
Hard work, man. Hard work. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I don't think, I cut hair 40 hours a week, but then I also work another 20, 30 hours a week just on payroll and accounting and
see, that's the thing, is a lot of people don't know about the back end, that you might be able to do something good, like you're like cutting hair. I can do that, but like, do you know how to run a business? Do you know how to keep employees happy? Do you know how to payroll? That's the weird thing. All the time that it takes to
it's crazy. And then now you got to keep up with your website and your social medias and all that stuff. So exactly. That's a whole nother 20 hours of work there.
Exactly. But a lot of people just don't know any of that work that goes into it. That's why.
I love it. I forget who it was that said it. I think it was it was one of them Shark Tank guys. I can't remember which one, but he said, entrepreneurs will work 80 hours a week to refrain from working 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Oh, it's true. It's true. And I think a lot of people out there would work if they knew what to do. But the biggest thing is that, like, you have to be a little bit foolhardy when you start out, and just like, fake it till you make it is the biggest thing that a lot of people don't realize. That's what we're all doing.
Oh yeah.
You just keep faking it, and then you realize, and what is it, Jeff? That's why I really like Jeff Houghton in Springfield doing the mystery hour thing. He did it for years and years and years, and now he's got Emmys, and he's doing the only late night talk show here in Springfield.
And he literally made it up.
Yeah, just made it up because he thought, I want to do this. And people are like, that's stupid. You're just in Springfield.
What are you doing?
I'm going to do it. He's won Emmys, and they're getting such a following, and they're having major companies looking at them on the coast that are saying, this is something special. And, big 100%. Affiliates, they're in 16 different, I think 16 maybe 16 different areas, but I know it's like 6 or 7 states, and it's fantastic. And it's just what we're doing here. And that's why I like what's going on here. Like what you're doing here, that took a lot of, it took gumption, and but it took a lot of faith for you to even try it, man. But that's another question. Like, how long did it take you before you realized, like, this is actually going to work, man?
I still don't know that it is.
I hear you. Yeah.
No, 85% of small businesses that open close their doors within the first 5 years.
Yeah, man.
And then the second 5 years, 85% of those businesses close their doors. So it's always in the back of my mind, man. I mean, we're successful. We're doing great. It's not a question of that, but it's always in the back of my mind about how am I going to keep this place going for 20, 30, 40 years?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I know I'll never be able to work for anybody ever again after working for myself.
I know. I'm the same way.
So I got to make it work either way. And, that's why I'm doing some of this podcasting stuff and this YouTube and making these videos. And, that I think that's kind of the route we're going to go, is kind of start focusing on multimedia.
That's good. Yeah. That's what the future is. Cause I have to deal with a lot of PR and kind of stuff like that, and different magazines and things. And like, it's so funny because for a long time, for the first 10 years, I was like, how do people get into magazines, and how do they get this PR and stuff? And then I would, contact these places, and they'd be like, oh, well, you got to pay like $2,000 to $5,000, or maybe sometimes $10,000 to be on the cover. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I don't have that money. And it's like,
it's crazy.
Yeah. I was like, well, that's what the industry, that's what it has to be. And I was like, oh, but then after those 10 years, now they're actually asking me to do it for free. And I was like, hey, this is a lot better. This is a lot better than paying for that crap.
That's awesome.
Man. Yeah. But that's the weirdest thing about the industry. People don't realize that, like, now we have, you literally have all the advantages that other people don't. There's a lot more white noise, but if you're doing like what you're doing, you did your research, you got the right equipment, you're doing it really well, and it's fantastic to see. And I'm sure, because you're one of the only people in the area that are thinking along these lines, and I think that's going to excite a lot of listeners, and a lot of people are going to go, hey, that's pretty cool, I'm gonna go check you out.
Yeah, man. It's kind of crazy. I literally have, since before we had this conversation, I've put out 2 episodes, and I've already got people messaging me like, how do you do this? How do you,
dude. I know you're at a really cool place that a lot of people haven't done it. But again, like, how long have you been researching this?
For at least a year.
Yeah, exactly.
A long time.
Exactly. People don't know that back end that happens. And like, it's the same thing with my career. Like I said, it took me 10 years before I knew kind of what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, well, I started talking about doing this podcast at least a year ago, if not more than that. And I made a list of 100 people that I wanted to have on the show eventually, and Jeff Hooten's one of them. And, I got some guys on there that I know it's going to be really difficult to get on, like Johnny Morris on the Bass Pro, like guys like that, and so Jeff, he's going to be tough to get on. But if I can get to that point, that'd be great.
Oh, I think you will. The main thing is having a plan to get where my uncle, the other uncle, Uncle Pat, someday I'll have to come back and tell you about him, or maybe you have him on the podcast, because he's one of the, oh man, he's basically like, he's not mentally challenged like Forrest Gump was,
Right.
But he had the life of Forrest Gump. Like, to be honest, like,
that's awesome.
He grew up in the Booger County down in Douglas County. Yeah, and from Rome, Missouri, right there. We come from a crazy stock, and my grandpa. He was one of the ones that donated so much of the land to the Mark Twain National Forest down there. Nice. And my uncle grew up between there and Vegas and LA, and he was, you should have him on, because he's a trip.
Well, I definitely know we don't have enough time to sit down and talk about everything I want to talk about with you on one episode. So you're definitely going to have to come back.
Oh, for sure. But one of the great things that he's taught me, like he built his own house down where his homestead was. They didn't have running water. They lived quite literally in a shack. And my great grandma was the one who started the small school in Skyline down there because she saved up money. She was working at a peach cannery in California. She saved up money to start a school, the Skyline school, back in the 40s.
That's awesome,
just an amazing person.
I worked out of Ava for 8.5 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you know that area.
Yeah, very well. I worked on the ambulance down there.
Oh, wow.
And so we went everywhere. So I'm very familiar with
Rome.
And, Yeah.
So my uncle, he built his own house, but like it's something that belongs in Architecture Digest. But he built it. He did it. It
That's
took him
awesome.
almost 7 years to build the ceiling on his back. He did all the
Wow.
plaster. This tells you how crazy he was back in the early 70s. Went down to the local library in Avon, started learning about blasting caps and dynamite, and he just went and got back at that time, just got cases
Whatever
of dynamite,
you wanted. Yeah.
blew up the damn hill, blew it up, made his whole place himself, and people were like, how in the world did you do that? And it's like, well, he's always had this idea in his mind that the world, his goal is always looking through a lead pipe at the end of it, and that's where his goal. But you got the other eye kind of out, yeah, hand cocked, and you got the other eye open. But but the big point is at the end of the lead pipe, and it's like,
gotta get there.
Yeah,
get to that point.
Exactly. And if you need to, pull down the lead pipe and use it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, whatever gets you there, man.
Exactly.
Whatever gets you there.
Exactly.
Well, we'll have to get him on the show for sure.
Well, the biggest things I always in a lot of singers, it doesn't matter, but singers or anybody. I mean, we as humans, we have to have these kind of patterns, and the big thing we got to do is like have a 1-year plan, a 3-year plan, and a 5-year plan. Yep. I mean, you can have a really far down the 20, 30, 40-year plan, but you got to be flexible with that. But the biggest thing is that you got to do the day-to-day thing that'll get you to the year, and then do the 3-year plan and the 5-year plan, because those, and when all those fit together, that's when success just starts happening. You're like, whoa, this is like dominoes. Everything's just falling, all the goals that I had. And that's what you're doing. And that's what any successful person does. You keep working towards those goals. And, I mean, you'll always have setbacks, but
sure.
I mean, why are we here? We're not here just to sit around and have fun.
Man. Just part of it. Yeah,
exactly.
No, people ask me a lot, how did you become so successful? And honestly, man, I don't know that I really consider myself successful yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't, because there's a lot that I have planned that I want to do, opening multiple locations and growing a YouTube channel or whatever, just different things. And when I get to that point, then I'll consider myself successful, but
Yeah. Well, here's one of the weirdest things though, is like I set a couple of goals for myself, and like they were really lofty goals. And one of the biggest ones is I wanted to sing German in Germany and be the lead in an opera, in a German opera house. And this was about 8 years ago.
Nice.
And I got to do it. And I was the lead in this. And it was the craziest thing I'd ever done in my life, because I had to jump in for someone who got sick. And so I got there the day before. I had 5 hours of rehearsal with only one person. I was rehearsing an opera I'd never done before. So it was 2 hours, and it was all in German, and there's lots of German dialogue. And so I was speaking in German back and forth, and I'd never met my coworkers. I had about 2 hours with my coworkers, and then we had the show later that night. And I had to learn all of the staging and the blocking and who my people were within 2 hours. Yeah. And it was for an opera I'd never done before in my life. And then I literally met the conductor who keeps everything together on stage. He was like, you're Michael, you sing Tamino. How fast do you take the aria? I was like, nah, it's too slow. Watch me. All right, have fun. I was like, oh my God.
Here we go.
So here we go. Yeah. And it just literally just started. And I was like, I was like in a haze. It was so bizarre. And then at the end, I was really proud of myself. And then the curtain went down, and I was like, oh my God, I did it. And I'd only messed up just like once or twice,
Nice.
And then the colleagues and, they're like, all right, see ya. And they just all walked off. And I was just standing there on the empty stage thinking, oh, well, I guess I got to do something else now. I was like,
you accomplished that goal.
That was the goal. Now what do I do? And it was this weird empty feeling, because and that's another thing my uncle said, is like he used to help. He would do counseling with people, and especially like really successful people that were like CEOs of companies and stuff.
Yeah.
And most of these people that were like really, really successful in the eyes of a lot of people, they have some of the worst anxiety and problems because they've achieved everything.
Right.
We are really good at sorrow and misery for the most part, and because that's what life is. Life is hard. So when we're successful, we're looking for that sorrow and misery, and it's this weird thing that we contentment is about about the only thing that we should be shooting for. This happiness and euphoria is it's great and it'll come, but it can't be a goal whatsoever.
No, not at all.
I used to think it was, and then I was like, oh, I mean, that's what I find. It's very interesting because a lot of people in our industries, you can get up to when you have a small insulated industry like you have this. If you're looking for a celebrity, you can find it in a certain way, but the biggest thing and moniker of success is keeping a place open and serving the community and doing something special. And that's what you're creating, and that's the coolest thing. Is that's why it's successful, because you're creating something different. Like, and that's why I love it. Come and get my hair cut here is because you and your employees, every time we can talk, and then I'll say something and it'll be like, yeah, and that's like this, and you got good people to talk to, and it's just and they're it's fun to actually get to have real conversation like back in the day, because a lot of people go in to get their hair cut, and then they don't, it's just it might look good, but it's not an experience, and that's why I love coming here. You can just hang out, and
that's part of the reason why I started the podcast, man, is because a lot of my clients, just like you and Luke and everybody, they have great stories, and I get to sit here and listen to them all day long. And I'm like, man, these short stories need to be shared. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, everybody needs to hear what I get to hear on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I'm doing this, because not everybody can be a barber. So
yeah, exactly. But it's so cool that because a lot of people don't. I mean, where did you get your artistic side from? Because you got some tats, and you got. Because being a barber really is an artistic thing.
Yeah. Honestly, I've always been pretty artistic guy. Even when I was a kid, I just loved to paint, loved to draw.
Cool.
Was always drawing stuff. I did some really big paintings and drawings.
Murals and things. Like that,
yeah, and just always kind of was into that. And honestly, I haven't drawn anything for a long time, but I'd probably be terrible at it now. But no, I was always into that. I took a lot of art classes in high school and college, and then started cutting hair really when I was 14 years old. Wow. Me and some of my buddies would go to my buddy's house, and we just kind of cut each other's hair.
Oh, cool.
And never really thought about making it a career, honestly, until I was 34 years old.
Wow.
And I worked a lot of different jobs. I worked on an ambulance. I worked for the railroad, just different stuff. And I just kind of got sick of the corporate world and wanted to do something that I knew I would enjoy, that was kind of an art form, and something where I could, just enjoy going to work.
Yeah.
So I was actually getting my hair cut one day, and I was just ignorant. I didn't know you had to go to school to learn how to cut hair, because I'd been cutting hair since I was 14, Yeah. So I just asked my barber, I was like, hey, how did you get into this? How did you do this for a job? And he told me, he said, well, you got to go to school, told me all about it. And so the very next day I went and checked and going to barber school. And
man.
I liked what I seen, and I went ahead and registered, and then started like 3 weeks later.
That's
so
great.
Graduated when I was 34, and I'm 38. So I've been doing it for about 4 years.
Oh, you've risen fast, but I mean, all that backstory, that's the main thing. And like hearing you talk just triggered something. A lot of people that'll be listening to this are usually younger guys, and they think they got to have it all figured out, but they don't. You and I, like I've gone through. I was a waiter. I was a construction worker. I cut grass. Yeah. I mean, I've done pretty much every kind of odd job that you can possibly think of, and I didn't have anything figured out until late 20s.
No, me neither. I'm 38, and I just now started to get it figured out. Really.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the biggest thing is not, just because you're doing some job now, I mean, you might be a fry cook or something. I mean, it's all about learning.
Late, man. Never too late.
It's all about learning and not being afraid to go with whatever you want to do in life, but making sure that you have some kind of a plan. You don't just jump to the next thing and just say,
right.
You don't do like one of my favorite movies is Half Baked from a long time ago.
Movie, like, great movie.
You're cool. I'm not going to say that. Right. But that's you can't just go walking around and telling people you got to have a plan. But that's the coolest thing about this life, and especially where we're from in the States. States. And I mean, you can't do this in other countries. Cause I mean, honestly, like my ex-wife from Serbia, you know, I told her about my uncle for the first time, and she was like, that's a lie. There's no way that someone can have that kind of life. And I was like, yeah, he's from, I mean, this could only happen in the United States.
Yeah.
And people don't realize like how good, you know, it's kind of crazy, how different our society is compared to other places. Like, cause I asked her, I said, so what happened? Like if your dad's like 40 years old and wants to be a doctor, and it's like, it can't be.
Really?
It's impossible. You can't. You have to start. If you want to be a doctor, you got to start when you're 13 years old.
Yeah.
Choose that path. Go 4 years here, 3 years there, and then you only are selected a specific amount of people in your region to be a doctor, and you probably won't make it.
Yeah.
You know, and we can do that. We here, you know, if you want to. I mean, like for instance, that my uncle, he's one of the only people in the area, but like he literally was a rocket technician for NASA, and he didn't even have his high school degree.
Nice. That's awesome.
I mean, he's a crazy, weird brain. I mean, severe dyslexia, and didn't really learn to read until he was almost 40.
Wow.
You know, but he was working on rocket engines, and he's just
isn't that wild?
Yeah, he's a badass. He's awesome. Man. Yeah, Uncle Pat's he's a crazy.
It's never
Vietnam
too late,
vet.
dude.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. I mean, I was the oldest guy in barber school.
Awesome.
And I call it
People
barber
call you
school.
Pops?
It was, yeah, pretty much. You know, it was barber school / cosmetology school, literally the same, same deal. But, you know, there's a ton of 18, 19-year-old kids and girls and boys in there. And it's, you know, you got a 34-year-old dude in there, and it's like, you know, it's a different world when you're the oldest guy in a place like that. It's I just went there to do my job and go home, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But you got the most out of it. That's good. Yeah, that's good, man. Oh, thank you so much for this. This has been really cool.
Yeah, man. Well, I know we need to wrap it up here, but I do appreciate you coming in, man. And we'll have you back again for a second episode, because I really enjoyed the conversation, and I think people are going to love this. So
yeah, Kix, this is awesome what you're doing, and I'm really happy to be a part of it, and I'll tell everybody I can about it.
Awesome, brother. I appreciate it, man. We will talk to you later.
Take care.